The action recommended, the Council select from the following options. The Council defer its decision on selecting a process for an Integrity Commissioner to the Committee examining the Code of Conduct for Council for further analysis, or the Council direct administration to prepare a request for proposals seeking qualified candidates for an investigative model or public interest model.
Yeah.
Moved by Councillor Frost, second.
Question of, how come there's only two recommendations here? What are the recommendations that have the province use the Integrity Commission?
He hasn't been appointed yet for that. I mean, it will come in January now, but at the time that the report was written, it wasn't an option at the time.
Well, I don't think we're in a real run of the race here if we don't have one in the next 3 months. I think we're wasting our money to bring somebody in. I've had the personal.
Okay, Count.
Oh, you want to
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a mover for which recommendation, right? Yeah, well, so we're going to ask, it was moved by Councillor Frost, correct?
I haven't moved anything yet, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
I'd like to discuss.
Okay, well, the way it works is we put a motion on the floor.
Well, I haven't.
If you want, you can even put a motion on the floor to receive the report and then make a motion after we have discussion in regards to the report. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion that we go with the first bit to defer the decision on selecting. This doesn't tie our hands to selecting one. It's just we're going to wait till we get to the conduct to discuss even if we will use one.
Okay, so you're making a motion
Number one.
for number one. Do we have a seconder?
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Frost.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Frost.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the report, Madam Clerk. I just want to say, despite what's been said publicly or in the media, I never really wanted to spend any money on an Integrity Commissioner. The main purpose of an Integrity Commissioner is to have someone who can enforce the Code of Conduct, which was voted unanimously past Council. A quick question to the clerk, maybe for you, Mr. Mayor. What is is it feasible to have a volunteer position for an Integrity Commissioner? And the reason I ask that is I was approached from a former councillor who would be interested in that position if it became available.
I don't believe so. I also believe that if you look at the Bellamy report, there would be recommendations against something like that too.
That's what I thought. So at this time, I do support Councillor Murphy's motion. I'd like this to go back to the committee, which I sit on for further discussion. Definitely not in the position right now to support spending any money on an Integrity Commissioner. I think it's not necessary. It's not a full-time position. I know Councillor McIntosh will be glad to hear me say that. So let's do better than that. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Councillor Ovett and Councillor Clement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no problem supporting this, but I can tell you if the committee comes back less than having the Ontario, the only reason why I'm supporting it is because the Ombudsman of Ontario hasn't been appointed for this yet. So if the committee goes back with this, they're going to go that way, it's fine. Any other thing we know, because I've had the issue with the investigator we had before, who brought in, tapped council on the fingers, 2 weeks past, they're doing the same thing. It don't work, and you're costing $2,500, $2,700 it costs. So I think it's important that we get the ombudsman, provincial ombudsman, on board when he comes in, and at no cost to the city, and he'll tap your fingers a little harder than just tapping your fingers, and I think that's what it takes to be things on. Thank you.
Okay, we have to remember that the committee that has been struck is to develop a code of conduct to bring to council, or some options for code of conduct. As far as the enforcement, that's a separate issue that will have to be dealt with a little bit later. So, and then again is that I don't know. They say January now, but this year has been going on and on and on. Exactly when it's going to finally pass the House, I'm not quite sure, or the regulations written for it. Is there any other questions? Councillor Towndale.
Sorry, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I just wanted to, I will support the motion to defer at this time. I do think that we need someone who's there in oversight. I think Bill 8, and you are right, it's supposed to come into effect in 2016, January 2016. I think they will actually honor this deadline. I think the ombudsman is a good option that we should look at, because it's hard to say now, but I anticipate there won't be an extra cost for municipalities. But who knows, it could happen. But I think we do need someone there, and it will tie in with our code of conduct. I tend to agree that we do need a code of conduct. I think it's something important. And if you read the we have in place, there's a gap. And once we figure that out, we can find someone appropriate who can come in and enforce that. Thank you very much.
Councilor Clement.
Well, we're going to have interesting conversations on the Code of Conduct Committee, because Councillor Townsville, myself, and Councillor Frost are on that. I'm not sure when the legislation is going to come in, and I worry about how long that's going to take, Mr. Mayor. I tend to agree with you. I think we need to move forward with our Code of Conduct. Thank you, Councillor Murphy, for making the motion to defer it to the Code of Conduct Committee. I think if we discuss it as a whole, we can make recommendations to Council. Let's not forget that there are limitations in terms of the penalties that we can impose, in terms of the tapping of the fingers. That's already outlined to a certain extent, so there's not going to be a whole lot of discussion around that. What's important is that whatever process we have, it's a professional process. And that, the advantage to having somebody named for our municipality is that they're going to be focused on us. The disadvantage with the ombudsman, I know the cost is an advantage, but the disadvantage is the ombudsman is going to be for everyone. Whereas, we don't necessarily want to sit back and wait when we have an issue. We want our integrity commissioner to be on top of that as soon as possible so that residents get an answer. So we're going to have interesting discussions with the Code of Conduct Committee, and I'm sure that we can come up with a good recommendation for council for further debate. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Oh, Councilor McIntosh.
I agree that it should go to the Code of Conduct Committee. Even if we could, to get somebody for nothing, I'd be very leery of that. And if we're talking about the same former counselor, I think he's changed his mind. He called me and said he'd offer himself for $100 an hour.
Oh, really? That's new. He's loving everything.
All right. Everybody okay? Council, you've heard the motion. Those in favor? Those opposed?